All right, friends, how are you today? Aaron here, bringing you your daily horoscope for Thursday, the 14th of November, 2019. We've got the moon in Gemini all day. All right, we've got the exact opposition to Venus. We're starting to feel the opposition to Jupiter. Okay, it's going to happen later in the day, into early tomorrow morning. Okay, so what is Gemini, right? Gemini is the twins. Our dualistic nature, thinking ruled by Mercury, which is in Scorpio right now, relearning the death and destruction of our own thoughts, and we're getting out of our head and getting more into our feels. And it's an interesting placement for everything right now, as it has to do with information, and information. Just because we think a thought doesn't mean that thought is real, right? So there's a lot of different ways we can look at this energy going on today. If we look back at, let's say, Christopher Columbus sailing his ships into Americas, and then, originally when the Indian chief had seen these ships, the rest of his tribe didn't. And he said, there's these things coming, but they didn't know what ships were. They didn't know to label, to put a finger on, this is what a ship is, and that's carrying all of these people. They'd never seen anything like it. So the chief had seen it, but was unsure what it was, but knew that there was something happening, something was coming their way. And as he was telling, again, his tribe mates, they were unable to see the ship because there was no recollection of what a ship was, right? So they labeled it. This is a ship, right? And eventually, everyone else began to see it. So we label things to make it easier for us to communicate. And sometimes those labels that we put on things, what is real? What is real? We again, dealing with our dualistic nature, like we talked about yesterday, if something is good or something is bad, if something is right or something is wrong, margarine versus butter, going back to that kind of thing. And we can look at, we're being called to feel, to get out of our head and follow our hearts. And when we put, when we amplify the magnitude of our heart, that's when we smile with our heart, we can smile with our face, right? But we label, we want to categorize everything, and that makes sense for us, and we can easily say, you are a toxic person, and your toxicity, I need to get away from this toxicity, well, this is the moon highlighting Gemini, highlighting the information, highlighting how we categorize all of these things. And Mercury, being the ruling planet of Gemini, up in Scorpio, we have to understand that, if we call somebody toxic, we must look at ourselves and say, why am I a perfect vibrational match to come in alignment with this toxic person? I must have my own toxicity that I'm dealing with, right? And that's a hard thing. It's a hard thing. We're dealing with our shadow right now, all right? We've got the sun, it's 22 degrees. Mercury's at 14 degrees. We're dealing with our shadow, and there's no escaping ourselves. There's no escaping our shadow. There's no escaping the polarity, our dualistic nature, I love that. It's like every time you point your finger, you got three fingers pointing back at you. You are toxic. You are bad. But again, what am I doing to bring that toxicity into my life? And I use that word really loosely because toxic means poison. That means, you drink bleach, you're going to die. Bleach is toxic. Radiation, toxic. When we're just dealing with personalities, we want to so badly judge and label them. And it's just, I think it's kind of a poor word that we've chosen, but I'm using it right now for an example. Again, because there's something about ourselves where we're always a perfect vibrational match to everything, right? And we can say this boss was toxic. And again, we are looking at what part of ourselves brought this up. And then further saying, can we appreciate, to give an example for me, I had my dream job when I was like 23 years old, 23, 24 years old. It's what got me started into the film industry. And I worked with somebody and I thought, oh, the coolest guy and all this. And then as the months went by, myself and the rest of the employees were like, wow, we were being taken advantage of. It was just nickel and dimed and penny pinched and let me squeeze as much out of you. And he was so afraid, like you give someone an inch and they're going to take a mile. He was so afraid, honestly, our laundry's done. Our boss was so afraid that people were going to take advantage of him that he made sure to take advantage of everybody else, So in turn, and it's really interesting because everyone that worked there are still a tight group of people. We're all still work together. And we have taken this knowledge, was it good, was it bad? It doesn't matter. Because what we have learned from the experience is how to be better bosses, how to be better business people, how to treat people fairly, how to give people the inch, and not assume they're going to try to take advantage of us, And it's like that. It's like when we give someone our heart, like we don't want to just like recoil it right away. We're dealing, there's an opposition to Venus there about having faith, So it's like you don't want to, bring it back right away. Like we have to be vulnerable and be open and giving, So when we're looking at the energy of today and the next 3.5 days is really, we're talking about the feelings. And it's like, just because you feel it doesn't mean it's there. And when you label something, is that beneficial to you? Is it what you need to survive right now? Is it helping you, saying that person's bad for me, or this is good for me? This tea is good. We've come to the conclusion that this is good. It's almost kind of simple in that sense, but there's like nothing simple about it at the same time, right? So moving beyond just because we feel something, like Dr. Joe Dispenza, I love that guy. He's like, we think somewhere between 70 to 90,000 thoughts a day. And just because we think something doesn't make it certain, doesn't make it real. And that's the beauty of Gemini. It's, it's like the trickster. There's truth, and then there's the lack of truth. There's the concrete yes, then there's the, I don't know, maybe, the exaggeration. And it's up to us to discern the difference. And the best way for us to do this during this time is to get out of our head about stuff and to come down to our heart. Right? That old expression, what is it? The longest journey a human can take is going from their head down to their heart. And with the opposition being perfect this morning to Venus, Venus is kind of winning. Venus wins. Venus wins. Love wins, right? Venus wins. Venus says, I'm having faith. I'm learning new information. I'm up here in Sagittarius, and I've got to have faith in my journey. This is all about the journey. Not only having faith, but taking the high road here, right? Taking the high road. So we can have those communications, we can have those conversations that can be difficult. Because again, we don't want to just label somebody as this or that without following through with it. It's like this is the real world. This isn't all just an illusion. We're all connected. I was just at a Buddhist meditation earlier, and That's like the illusion. This life is an illusion. These words are an illusion. It's like to a degree, but this is, that's very real. So Neptune deals with the illusion. Saturn deals with this very real reality, the very physical reality. And as we can see here, coming back to the chart for a quick second, the moon creates that quincunx to this. So there's both sides of the coin. One is real, one is not. And what does Saturn want to do? It says, well, this is about the real world here, and we're only going to focus on the things that really matter. Again, the only one way to turn that coal into diamond, and that's applying a ton of pressure. So we can experience a lot of pressure today. We can experience a flood of thoughts. And you even see this little semi-square here, little tension between releasing and letting go. It's like, can we let go of the idea that your ex is a terrible person? I say, love it. Love your exes, because they've propelled you into the direction to knowing exactly what you want. So that's a beautiful connection right now. So it's just like, hey, whatever didn't work out in one way, again, like that boss thing, it's just like by knowing exactly how I hated being treated, now I have a better understanding of how to treat somebody else, right? By knowing in a relationship, and we're still dealing with this relationship stuff a ton today, okay? Because the moon is going to, let's go ahead of here a couple hours. Look at that, later on at night. We're going to be feeling this all day, all night. There's so much energy, okay? Now look at that. We have the yod happening here, okay? A sextile and two quincunxes, okay? This yod, the finger of God, pointing to the moon. And what are the sextiles? It's between the sun and Pluto, okay? This is about transformation of self, okay? We need information to transform ourselves. This information that we're talking about right now is so important. Can we be unconditional to those, in the past that we can say hurt us, that we can say were bad for us, and learn to expand and say, wow, these were all a part of my beautiful journey, and to really love it. That can be a hard thing to say. And that's why that, that little semi-square that was happening in the morning, it's like we got to let go of those feelings. We got to release some of those feelings in order to really shine to where we're really going. The person you thought was your worst enemy or your hardest rival or adversary is really your best friend. That relationship that ended in trauma was really your best, strongest attribute, because that's going to line you up for the next best relationship, right? As we're dealing with relationships right now, business partnerships, all of the above, not just romantic. Hey, a friend did this, and do we walk away and give up? Do we, the dog peed on the carpet? Do we get rid of the dog? Do we teach it? Do we communicate? We open up the door of communication. No, dog. This isn't how we do this here in this home. We go to the bathroom outside. So we train the dog. We teach the dog on how to be in our home, just like we have to teach people. We have to communicate with people on how to treat us, right? And until we learn to do that, until we learn these definitive boundaries and how to bring this communication up, and that's the beauty between Saturn and the Sun today, leading to Gemini Moon communication, right? Bringing this communication. Maybe and this could be a day too where it's just like somebody's going to be reaching out from the past. That's just like, oh, wow. Times have changed, and this information coming forward is extremely necessary to propel us further on our journey. Okay? So again, there can be a flood of information coming in. Our brains can be very, very busy. Breathe. Just breathe if that happens, and just connect with your heart. Ba-bum, 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 ba-bum. Connect with your heart, connect with your feels here. Slow things down during this retrograde, slowing it down, and remembering when we label all these things, we can really be shorting ourselves in the long run. In the long run, it might be necessary for this time being, but in the long run, we might have to let some of those labels go from the things from the past, right? We're digging that stuff back up, shining the light and making it new. So big day going on here. A lot of information coming in, and I hope we use that information to propel us to further our journey, and having faith in ourselves and the people around us, that and having faith that that toxic person you met was the absolute best person that you needed to meet at that point in time. There's no better way to view it than that, absolutely necessary, and to be unconditionally grateful. That's the hard one, being unconditionally grateful. As you see here, last second, this square to Neptune. It's going to be happening all day. This is the big picture here. This is the illusion. And then we're dealing with a lot of illusion here, or what's right, what's wrong, dealing with our dreams, dealing with our imagination, our dreams, our the big picture, the underlining, it's like the dark matter that flows through all things, And then again, we still have this beautiful kite. So not only do we have this kite happening, right? Mercury to Saturn to Neptune to the North Node. Very emotional, still connecting and sinking to the bottom. And when we do this, when we come down to the bottom here, we can look at ourselves, right? We can look at ourselves. We can look at our shadow and say, I did that too. I did that too. Maybe in a different way, but I did that too. And that person hurt me, and that person hurt me, and I hurt that person, and I hurt that person, and I did this. And I thought I was the hero, but I was the villain in this situation. Our dualistic nature, right? Everyone is the hero and the villain of their own story. So understanding this is extremely potent and powerful moving into the day and moving into the next couple of days when the moon enters Cancer. Okay, it's going to be really big. It's going to be that humbling, beautiful release. So we'll talk about that more then. Have a happy Thorsday. Thursdays are always Jupiter days, and the moon is going to oppose Jupiter today. Right? So a lot of information. Again, we have to discern from the information that just all that is to the higher information that's going to, again, the higher education, the higher philosophy, the education that's going to be beneficial to us, not the you know what I mean? Like there's like general lingo that your coworkers and just acquaintances have, and they'll say yeah screw that person or whatever, and that's like that Gemini thing going on right now. And it's just like, no. There's deeper answers into this. Not forget that person, not screw that person, not whatever. There's an answer here. There's a reason why we aligned. There's a reason why we came into a perfect harmony for a moment. What is that information? And to be grateful for that interaction, being grateful for that expansion. It's a beautiful Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow.